Okay, Facebook Live. I will give it a minute for someone to join, and I also need to share this on my personal page. So while we're waiting for some viewers, I'll get a few technical things going. I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. I know it has been a really good day for me, and I hope it's been a really good day for you. Let's share this broadcast. Just to give it a sec. Can't believe it is 7 o'clock on Thursday. So coming to you live a little later than usual. Normally we go live at 6:30, but I'm a working girl and it has been a busy day. So I hope you've had a pretty productive day as well. Try now for where are all of my people today? As soon as I get done. All right. I've got it posted. I'm sharing on my personal page. Looks like we have a couple of viewers. So I think we can get started with Thursday Talk. Turn off my ringer just to make sure I don't have all the sounds and distractions coming through. But welcome to Thursday Talk. I am Susan Porter, a voice and an advocate for our community, and excited to be with you today. As I mentioned while I was waiting for viewers to join, that I'm coming to you live today at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time instead of 6:30 p.m., our normal time. I am a working girl, and I had a busy day today. How was your work day, or how was just your day in general? I cannot believe it's March 31st. I mean, I think the last time I went live, I couldn't believe that it was March, whatever the date was then. And really, because time waits for no one and it goes by at the snap of a finger. And before you know it, we will be ready to celebrate 2023. Isn't that crazy to just say that out loud, 2023? So now that we are a quarter of the way through this year, how have you done on working toward your goals this year? My ring light is giving a glare on my glasses, so you can't really see my eyes, but now I can't really see the screen, but that's okay. But back to my question, how have you been in working toward your 2022 goals? We are a quarter of the way through the year, and if you were to look back on the goals that you set for this year, have you made progress? Are you at a standstill? Have you not even touched those goals that you wrote for this year when you started the year with enthusiasm and excitement, but maybe things just got busy and it fell off a little? I don't know. But I do recommend that wherever you are, take a minute and pull out your goals or the things that you wrote down. And if you didn't write anything down, then identify, what are some things you want to accomplish for yourself before the end of the year, and really use this next quarter as an opportunity to lean into those goals and to have clear actions and to make progress for yourself. And you never know where things could end up in 3 months from now. I'm reading a book. I don't have it in here with me. It's called How to Be Effing Awesome. And it's a pretty good book. He does use a lot of profanity. So if that's something that bothers you, then you may not want to read it. But it's just very direct and to the point. It's by Dan Meredith, and it's called How to Be Effing Awesome. It's like $8 at Barnes and Noble. So really inexpensive book, but it's pretty direct to the point of how you spend your time. But where was I going with that? Oh, he was talking about productivity and having a 90-day push of what you're wanting to implement, what you're wanting to do, and then 90 days of managing through what you implemented. And then have another 90-day push and then 90 days of managing through. And when I think about just our business, the business that I'm in, we function like that to a certain extent. We'll have a big 90-day push, and then we'll lead and continue to manage through while still maybe driving some other initiatives, but definitely a big focus each quarter. So with that for yourself and your goals, I hope you go back and review and maybe identify things that you want to work on to close the year out strong. And then what are things that you just need to even begin to tackle to begin with. I know that's what I will be doing. So just thought I'd share that with you because, again, tomorrow's April 1st. Tomorrow's April Fool's Day. But most importantly, tomorrow is the wonderful young woman who made me an aunt. My niece, April, tomorrow is her birthday. She was born on April 1st, and her name is April. And she is the wonderful young lady that made me an aunt. And I love being an aunt, and I love her. So happy early birthday, April. All right, so what else has been going on in the world? Let me put my glasses on so I can read my notes because I can't read my notes without my glasses. So if you were watching the news today, perhaps you heard about Senate Bill 2 and Governor Stitt signing Senate Bill 2 into law, banning transgender women in college sports. And so what are your thoughts about that? I'd love to read your comments. Type in the chat just what your thoughts are about Governor Stitt signing Senate Bill 2 into law, and just how do you feel about that? And really, I think that when you look at all of the things that are happening around us, from legislation and initiatives and government direction and just our society and opportunity and everything around us, and you think about the generation that is to come, our current generation of kids, of children, of young people grew up in an era of school shooting drills. The only drill I remember having at school was a fire drill and a tornado drill. Those are the only two drills we had at school. Now children have active shooter drills, what to do in the event of an active shooter. And then you have another generation of young people who are yet to be born or currently, under the age of 10, coming up in an era where the ability to be who you are and to be accepted for who you are is becoming more of the norm than it was. I mean, the things that we are able to, Russian bomb drill too, Angel Acres just added in the comments. Yeah, right. And just having bomb drills. But going back to just the point of all of this for me is to talk about inclusivity and recognizing the changing world around you. There was a period of time when Blacks and whites couldn't marry, couldn't live in them. I mean, we know that, right? Of just the racism and the discrimination that happened for the fear of inclusivity and many other things. But if we take it to moving it to a step forward of gay rights, moving it to a step forward now of transgender rights, and just moving forward and forward in this world of inclusivity. But then in a world of inclusivity, we do not want to teach knowledge. And that knowledge being, when we talk about critical race theory and not wanting our young children to be traumatized by the choices of their ancestors, where there's already a group of minority populations that are always reminded of the trauma that their ancestors endured, never reminded of the success or the contributions of their ancestors, only of the trauma, be it indigenous, be it Black, be it whomever, any minority, they're reminded of the trauma versus the contributions and the assets and the benefits of their group. And so here we are And in Florida, they signed the No Gay bill of teaching sexual orientation to kindergarten to third graders. Now, my question to you on this one, I don't expect you to teach my kindergarten to third grader heterosexual sexual orientation. Like, what are we even talking about in this standpoint? And if it's the factor of, oh well, there was a book, and in this one book there were two mommies versus a mom and a dad. Okay, well, what does that have to do? Like, it's a book, it's just we label things to the extreme to validate a point and to feed into fear. We label things all the way to an extreme to validate our points, to feed into fear, and to cause division and to cause concern, instead of using good sense, good judgment and common sense, right? Instead, we want to instigate fear. We want to cite all the differences. We want to spill out all the terror and the horrible things that are going to happen if you allow your children to learn these things. Because my goodness, it's not like you can't go home and have a logical conversation with your parents at home about these things. But instead, we want to teach fear and incite division and cause these things that continue to evolve and revolve in the world that we're a part of. And so it's just such a when you stand back and you listen and you watch what's happening around you and the cycle of history repeating itself, it's at what point do you get off of this merry-go-round that we're on and we have real difference and change? And I believe that real difference and change comes in every generation. It's just to the degree in which we're able to experience it. So just some thoughts on that. Then I've got and within that, I was watching 60 Minutes. Was it last weekend on 60 Minutes? Or maybe it was the weekend before. But they were talking about the housing market and something that is happening around us. And there is a really big push in every state, I'm sure, but let's just talk about local. There is a very big push for specifically Blacks to buy property and to own property in Northeast Oklahoma City. I own property in Northeast Oklahoma City. I'm very happy to be an East Side girl and have my home here on the East Side. And there's a push where we see developers buying property and helping to flip it and then create home ownership and really try to keep home ownership affordable for families. But what's happening around us is that as homes go up for sale, it's usually a private investor that will buy it, but that private investor is not looking to buy the property for the purpose of giving someone else the opportunity for home ownership. They're buying the property for the purpose of flipping it for a profit. And as everyone should, it's business. Of course, you want to flip property and have a profit, but at the same time, if investors are buying property and they're either turning that property into Airbnb. There are 2 Airbnbs just on my street alone, turning those properties into Airbnb, or only renting those properties instead of giving people the opportunity to buy them, because the cost to buy the property is so outrageous in comparison to individual incomes that the idea of home ownership is slowly drifting away. And a man said on 60 Minutes that you can borrow the American dream instead of buying the American dream. Part of the American dream was to own your home. We know that home ownership helps to create wealth. We know that home ownership provides families with you have a home, the equity in your home, you can use that to help get yourself out of debt, help to pay for big expenses. Having property and equity is something of value if you needed to liquidate your assets. But if homes that go up for sale are being bought by investors who simply turn around and flip them for a Airbnb, or turn around and outprice the general population to buy a home, what happens to everyone? What happens to us as a country? What happens to the wealth of this nation when we look ahead 20 years from now? When home ownership continuously decreases. And I didn't get a chance, I knew there was some other things I was supposed to do. I didn't get a chance to look up some statistics on home ownership, specifically here in Oklahoma. But I think that as we're looking at that piece of the American dream, how do we reclaim something that's being taken directly away from us in either being outpriced or a lack of property to buy, because investors are buying and using it for rental property or using it for Airbnb. That's the new way of it all. But it's impacting our ability to build our wealth and to have our future. So again, would like to know what your thoughts are about that. Please type into the chat any comments or thoughts that you may have. And thank you again for joining tonight for Thursday Talk. So the Oscars, who watched the Oscars? I mean, let me just first start by saying what an amazing show. Will Packard did such a great job. I mean, really, he did a great job of, I heard him in an interview previously, and he said he wanted to bring the excitement of the movies back into the Oscars, where it was an inclusive program of just true movie watchers, enthusiasts who love cinema and have an opportunity to come together and celebrate. And for me, that's exactly what it was. It was just diversity and openness and representation on so many different levels. So to just talk through a few of the winners. As far as the best animated feature, and if you have never seen Encanto, now I have I have three nephews who are all one, and I've watched Encanto with my nephew Josiah and fell in love with that movie. And it is, you don't have to have kids to want to watch Encanto, but it was really good. Coda, which is a movie I have not seen, but listening to the actor who won the Oscar for the best supporting actor and hearing him tell his story and just learning more about the movie and for an all deaf cast, and the first time in 35 years that someone has brought home an Oscar from a deaf actor was just so heartwarming, and it makes me want to see the movie. The clip that they showed of the movie, it's just such a beautiful film. And that's what cinema is all about, the beauty and the art of acting and the story that is being told across the silver screen. Some other movies, and please again type in the comments and chat, maybe what your favorite moments of the Oscars were, any of your favorite movies that won, anything that you want to see now that you know the different movies that were part of the Oscars. King Richard, which was a great movie, and the story, of course, of Venus and Serena Williams' father and their journey to becoming champion athletes. And it was a great movie. Beyonce's song, what did you think of her performance? And the all green, kind of a tennis ball, ode to the tennis court, ode to the tennis ball in her outfit. But the song was fantastic. Beautiful song. And congratulations to Billie Eilish and her brother who won. So just a lot of great moments through the Oscars. And then, of course, there were always those, what just happened moments, right? That has been discussed in depth that need no further conversation from me in reference to that. But I will bring up something that someone taught me a long time ago along my professional journey. And it was a phrase that stays with me. And it is a phrase that I use with all of my team members if ever I'm teaching a training or talking through leadership. It is something that I repeat over and over. And I'm going to share this little nugget of information just with you tonight. And that nugget of information is, Johanna says, let's hear it. Okay. When emotion is high, intelligence is low. Come on, somebody. I sound like I just had a little moment of Dr. Rick Rixby when he'd say, come on, somebody, right? When emotion is high, let me repeat that. When emotion is high, intelligence is low. So just let that sink in for a minute. And I want you to take yourself back to a time when your emotion was high. Think about it. We all have a moment. Think about a time when your emotion was high. In that moment of high emotion, where was your intelligence? It was low. For example, one easy one. You are in a heated argument with someone and you're just so emotional and so upset. You either say something that you don't mean, you break something because you're in emotion. And so it wasn't very smart that you just threw the remote control and it hit the TV. Now you don't have a television because you acted out of rage because your emotion was up here and your intelligence was down here. You find out that you have a cheating significant other that may require some high emotion sometimes, just saying, Carrie Underwood. But, it's still high emotion and you're really not using full intelligence when your emotion is high. And so think about that for yourself. And I just want you to, when you're in those moments of what we call at work, being in our extremes, that's just a little short nugget of something we learned from Dr. Bell as a part of our own personal growth and development as a company. But we call it being in our extremes, when our emotion and we're being driven more by our emotion. So we've got some comments here. Let me put my glasses on. Okay. Johanna says powder, right? Johanna, like emotions high, intelligence is low. Stuart, hey, Stuart. So glad that you joined. So glad you're here. And then Johanna says, wait, what? Carrie Underwood? No way. Yeah. And that's actually one of my favorite karaoke songs too. When he cheats, but just because it's just a good action karaoke song. And I like Carrie Underwood. And it's all about high emotion and low intelligence. But what can that do? I mean, think of the consequences for that and the consequences of that and working in your high emotion. And you owe it to yourself to be able, and not that we don't have moments when we react. Let me just explain something. There are times when you are in high emotion and it requires a reaction, and it doesn't necessarily mean it was low intelligence. You may be very well aware of the consequences of what you're going to do. So your intelligence is right here with the emotion, because when I do XYZ, I'm pretty sure XYZ is going to happen. But in this moment, me dealing with this emotion and what just went on is greater and more important to me than the fallout of the good judgment of knowing what my consequence is going to be, knowing your consequence. So with that, sometimes that may be the case, but know your consequences and be ready to stand in your truth when those consequences come back to look at you in the face. We have another comment from Stuart. Have you studied emotional intelligence and how has it impacted you? And then Johanna says, please share, Susan. Oh, you guys are going deep tonight. Okay, so yes, I mean, to an extent, I have studied emotional intelligence, and definitely from behaviors of why we behave the way we do, either from our past experiences, our childhood, the way we were raised, the experiences we had with our parents, and just how that leads us to be the people that we are, and then how we respond to those things. Knowing a person's disc type, knowing where they fall on what motivates them, as far as people, what motivates them through a work environment, but that bleeds over into their personal life. It's impacted me in the way that, one, I now can recognize when I am going into, I mentioned before, going into my extremes, when I am drifting into a place that brings more emotion, brings me into a place of higher emotion. And I've been able to learn and recognize what things trigger me to lead me to a place of my extremes and high emotion and behaving in a way that is not conducive to be productive, collaborative, successful, peaceful, harmony. None of those things exist when you're working in high emotion or working in, like I shared before, your extremes. And so by knowing where I personally fall, then I'm able to change the way I respond to others when I can feel those triggers happening. So, from a work example, if someone says something to me that triggers an emotional response, an extreme response, I can identify that and adjust myself and adjust my response. So then I'm not adding to a situation that would not be conducive for either one of us. And even if you look at that from your personal life, think about times when you've been in having a moment with someone, and in that moment of your response, you can respond in your emotion, which then they'll probably respond in their emotion. And then the next thing you know, it's just a who's going to top the other, and it blows up and it explodes. Or you can catch yourself before you get into your emotion and respond intelligently so that your point can hopefully be heard, or at least best case scenario or worst case scenario, rather, you are diffusing the situation from getting any worse. So I hope that answered. Stuart said, great self-reflection. Thanks for sharing. Thumbs up, Stu. Thanks for asking. And thanks for the questions and the comments. I love the interaction from everyone. It's great for me to be able to know what you're thinking and to talk over any questions that you may have. But let's see, what else was on my list today of things to talk about? I had a little agenda. I do come somewhat prepared. Oh, how could I not have brought this up for a topic of conversation? Can we move forward and confirm Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the bench, please? Can we get her on moving forward? And Senator Lankford and Inhofe, let's see. She's just a rubber stamp for the liberal activists, said Inhofe. Well, I don't really think that's the case. And she is not committed long term, said Lankford. Well, how do you know how long term she is? And maybe that's the question you should have asked Inhofe when he decided to run for re-election, seeing that he's not going to fulfill his term. So if anyone should have a question about who's long term and sticking to what you said you were going to do, maybe that's who we should ask, because now he is leaving his seat and we have a vacancy and have to go through a whole process of something we didn't have to go through in the first place. I tell you, politics in Oklahoma and just across the world, where would we be if it weren't for political gangs? Everything's a gang. You got the political gangs, the people gangs, the human gangs, the animal gangs, the cloud gangs, the sun gangs, the rain gangs, the planet gangs. It's just all a big old fat gang. And I'm happy to be a part of the human gang. And I'm glad you were here with me today. So it is 7:28. We are just right about at time. I don't see any other comments or questions in the chat. And I have completed all the topics on my list for tonight. So thank you so much for joining. I always love having an opportunity to come and share Thursday Talk with you. As always, if you enjoy this time with me and you enjoy all of the information that I bring to you, please invite your friends to like my page, share this post on your page, and encourage your friends to like and share as well, and continue to tune in for Thursday Talk. So I am Susan Porter, a voice and an advocate for our community, reminding you to take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And please remember to continue to wash your hands, watch your distance, and wear your mask. And until next time, have a great one, and I'll see you on the next Thursday. Adios.